Hey everybody, welcome to the 20-Minute Bible Study. I am Vince Miller. Today we're discussing the topic of dirty fighting techniques in marriage. Yep, eventually you're gonna fight in marriage and we're going to encounter some conflict, and at some point, we're all gonna fight dirty. And we will be both on the receiving end and the delivery end of these dirty tactics, but really we shouldn't be on either end. Our problem is often that we're unconsciously doing these things, and we continue to consciously or unconsciously do them because, by the way, it's worked in the past, or someone else has modeled it to us in our lives. But when we fight dirty, we're often looking to gain an advantage through another person's weaknesses. And when we're hostile at that moment, we know that we can get a reaction by pushing their buttons in these areas. Often at this moment, we have shifted the goal from the true meaning of marriage to inflicting pain to win. And if your goal is to win in an argument, there's going to be a loser. The question is there a better way to win? Well, there are two things to remember in conflict. Number one, we have to remember the goal of marriage. Marriage is not about winning and losing. It's about oneness. When one person loses, we both lose. And when one person wins, we both win. Oneness is about a husband and a wife becoming intimately connected so much that we develop mental, physical, relational, and spiritual harmony that goes beyond human possibilities. Two, when two become one in the flesh, something special happens. But occasionally, in an effort to find our oneness, we will have a conflict. Conflict is often an attempt to come to mutual understanding. Like two positive poles on a magnet at times, we will reject each other. And when this happens, we have disagreements and conflicts and arguments, or fights, you might call them. Call them what you want, but we engage in debate for the purpose of understanding each other and coming to really a common understanding. And as these moments happen, we can develop some patterns that are unhealthy, and therefore we fight dirty. But number two, we got to stop the dirty fighting tactics. Now, there are a lot of great dirty fighting tactics out there and techniques. Some you know better than others because you have used them or have had them used against you in the past. Right now, I'm about to give you a list of 20 dirty fighting tactics and a short explanation of each. Here they are. First, bad timing. Pick the worst time to start an argument. Next, escalating. Move quickly from a single issue to more significant matters that you've been waiting to bring up. Next, sandbagging. Move from the primary issue to all the other problems you have. Next, generalizing. Use inflammatory language like always and never. Next, cross-complaining. Respond to their complaints with one of your own. Next, interrogating. Imply with a question that they could have easily done something that they didn't. For example, why didn't you do this? Next, blaming. Make the issue entirely their fault. Next, pulling rank. Make the point that you do more than them in every area. Next, dominating. Talk over them regardless of what they say. Next, violation listing. Recite every injustice you've suffered. Next, negative labeling. Give the person a negative psychological label like immature or neurotic. Next, mind reading. Telling the person why they did something, even if you don't know. Next, predicting. Predict fatalistic views of their future. Next, avoiding ownership. Just don't take any responsibility for anything. Next, exiting. Just walk out of the room or leave the house in protest. Next, denying compromise. Never back down from your position. Next, personalizing. Make it about the person and not the issue. Next, victimizing. Make yourself the eternal martyr. Next, grudging. Hold a grudge forever and bring it up over and over again. Next, shifting. Be inconsistent in an argument to avert resolution. So there you have it, 20 common tactics. So guys, when we come back, we'll be joined by a guest who will help us to dig in to this topic a little bit more.
Get your day started right. Sign up for the Men's Daily Devotional at mensdevo.org. That's mensdevo.org. They're short, sweet, and to the point. Read them and share them with the men you know. And get into God's Word daily.
So welcome back to the show. We're glad to have you here with us. I'm joined by Tyler VanEps. Thanks for being with us again.
For sure. It's good to be here.
I love having you, man. I think you had some good perspective for our young married guys on the show.
You're just saying that.
Yeah, no, I mean that, man. So we're talking about dirty fighting techniques today, and of course, we all deploy dirty fighting techniques.
Let's get
right?
into it. I'm ready. Give me everything you got.
fight dirty, right?
Come on.
Yeah. Well,
I need some more tips and tricks.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly why we're doing this today. Yeah. So anyway, we all deploy dirty fighting techniques, and we probably picked them up somewhere. Usually from our home of origin is where we pick many things up. A little subconsciously, maybe at times. Did you ever experience any dirty fighting techniques in your home of origin?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. My parents definitely fought. All parents fight. I didn't get to see. I think I heard more than I actually saw. So a lot of like behind closed doors fights and stuff like that. So
they went into a room and fought.
Yeah, which I'm actually really thankful for, because I probably didn't pick up a whole bunch of bad stuff. But
Sure.
yeah, how about you?
My mom was married, divorced multiple times, right? And so I don't really remember much from when my biological dad, because they were divorced when I was 2, but my second dad, my stepdad, I remember a lot of fights, a lot of really vigorous physical fights, and a lot of dirty fighting. So, I mean, I was reading through these 20 techniques here, and I was going, oh boy, there it is. Yeah, I was checking them all off. And unfortunately, I think that really does kind of damage our ability to really understand what healthy conflict resolution looks like, right? We learn these dirty fighting techniques from other people. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we'll learn them at work.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll learn them from
I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, we do. These things happen at work, don't they?
Yeah.
And they happen in our marriages, they happen at work, they happen in families, maybe even extended families. I've seen this stuff happen in all kinds of families, especially extended parts of the families when they're coming together, like at Thanksgiving, Christmas. Oh my goodness, you've seen this stuff, haven't you? And it becomes rather comical, isn't it? It's really easy to poke fun at because there's a lot of drama.
If you're not in the middle of it, it's actually really entertaining.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but when you
got
are
a reality TV show right in front of you.
Yeah, it is so true, isn't it? But it's not so much fun when you're right in the middle of it. And when you're right in the middle of it, it becomes very hurtful and painful, doesn't it? Because it, like we talked about last time, it really will attack a person's character.
Yeah.
At the core. And so we do pick these up. I think one of the major problems, and I was thinking about this for myself and even for you, is we do, as a result, see the way that people deal with conflict and therefore see them win sometimes, and then therefore assume that tactic works.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would never learn these dirty tactics, right?
Oh, man.
So
there wasn't some type of benefit or advantage.
There's some sort of advantage that we get from these, and they do work. I can think of a number of people that bully other people or take advantage of them or manipulate situations or do one of the list of 20 that we have here that was a little bit more descriptive or prescriptive of how people act maybe sometimes. But regardless of how you look at it, the tactics do sometimes work. And because of that, people use them. Yeah. Right? So I'm kind of curious today.
Don't do it.
I really want to ask you this, but I got to read this quote though to you first. It's actually from William Shakespeare.
All right.
It's from his play The Taming of the Shrew. And before they take that too far, there's this one great moment. It's one, and it is probably his greatest quote. He says this: "What with my tongue is your tale? Nay, come again, good Kate, I am a gentleman." Isn't that interesting? That he has such this gentleman's approach to her attacks that he's not going to give up his character in the middle of that. Isn't that great? It's just it is actually a great quote from that play. And it's quite startling given the way that she behaves throughout the movie and how he woos her over with his gentleman approach. If we could only learn to do that.
There are only more Bill Shakespeare's in the world,
right, exactly. So you got to tell me now. I got 20 tactics here. I could read them off again, but you've seen them, you've heard them. What do you think you use?
Yeah.
What's your tactic, man? Your go-to tactic?
There's a couple of them. I mean, overall, the competitive side of me, like there's always a desire to win arguments.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the biggest things is just trying to go into it with the mentality that we're on the same team. Usually that's able to keep me away. But
primary, I want you to think about like the first one you go to, because they're all connected, right?
Yep.
The first one you go to.
I think I can get stuck in negative labeling. There is one hot button word that I can never use with my wife. I've gotten much better over our 7, almost 8 years of marriage. But it's the one word that I know can set her off and I know can derail her argument, because once she gets super emotional, she doesn't get very logical.
And you got me by a thread. What is it? You got to tell me.
Crazy.
Crazy.
Yes.
Like you're crazy?
Yes. I can. And it's interesting because it's not early in our marriage. It wasn't a character thing I was associating with her. It was, you're acting crazy right now. Like you're like this, like us doing this is crazy. Yeah. And so it wasn't as much character. And I think over the years I recognized that, this is a hot button word. And it like, it's hard because I mean, crazy moves into insanity and all these different like mental illness, like, it's a softer word than all these really deep psychological type words, but I've recognized that's one within our marriage. Like that's a no-go. And I've gotten much better at withholding that one.
So you're still thinking is what you're saying.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, this is crazy. Right. And when I think this is crazy, I want to say, crazy,
Let's not do that.
No. That's not a good one. It's not a good one. So.
That's funny because when I was reading through this list, and of course, I wrote it and kind of manipulated it a little bit because there's many lists like this out here. But the first one for me is exiting. I like want to walk out of the room because predominantly I do not like conflict. But I've come to discover that me walking out of the room is an attempt to regain control of the situation that I feel out of control of.
It's a big power move in a fight.
It is. And I also need time to process. And sometimes I don't feel like my spouse, my wife gives me that time to kind of process that. And because she's so good at coming at me, like with so much all at once, it's really hard for me to process all those thoughts at once. And so I need to exit. I almost need to exit, not to manipulate her, but I discovered that I was actually doing that. And then there's others that combine with that. These aren't just one little thing that we do. There's other things like I will sandbag, right? I'll sandbag her, which is moving from the primary issue to all the other problems that you have. It's a great move. This works every time. It never works for me, actually.
Bad timing. That tends to be one for me.
Oh, really? So you combine that with your
exactly
your crazy comment. Okay.
For me, I'm like I'm such a fixer, like problem solver, that if I sense like the tension or sense the conflict, I'm just like, let's take care of it. Let's fix it. Let's do it. And I can tend to have really bad timing. Yeah.
We all do sometimes at times, right? And then I'll sometimes blame after that. Or I'll use that very attacking language with her, or I'll victimize myself eventually. I mean, it's interesting if you actually followed, if someone recorded one of our arguments, I just think it would be laughable that I probably touched on at least 10.
It's probably really consistent, the pattern you take through it.
It probably is consistent, but it's probably just devastating. I was like, guilty. And then it was very easy for me to look at this list and go, she does. When I was going, I'm right back here at mind reading again.
I'm fighting with her and she's not even here.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't this fascinating, though? Yeah. I mean, we laugh about it. We're kind of half laughing about this, but we actually experience these moments.
Absolutely.
And most guys out there experience these moments. So how have you pressed through this thing? I mean, what kinds of things are you doing to help overcome the ways that you fight dirty with your wife? What have you done in the past? Can you think of anything?
I think with the labeling thing, obviously just doing my absolute best to throw that word out of our arguments has been a big step in that. But I think even if the thoughts are in the back of my head, I have to recognize that emotionally in myself, I'm starting to see the conflict or the argument escalate. And that's why I'm thinking, this is crazy, this is crazy, this is crazy. And eventually, if that peaks, that's going to end up with me saying, you are crazy. And so for me, there's a lot of just some physical stuff that I do to just calm myself down, because I want to have a logical argument. She wants to have a little bit of more of an emotional argument.
Yeah.
And usually that's where we're at in our relationship. Usually it just comes down to a connection thing. We maybe haven't connected emotionally in a while. And so that's a way for us to force emotional connection in a moment. So I think that's one thing for me, is just actually using some physical triggers, like whether it's squeezing my knees or grabbing the table or just trying to release some of that tension that I feel of escalation.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? Proverbs 15:1 is really our key verse for today. It says this: a soft answer turns away wrath. A soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger.
Yeah.
I just think that's such a profound proverb that essentially says to me that we must not lose attentiveness to the emotional connection that we have with one another, right? Like a soft word, like understanding how to do that rather than this harsh attacking posture. A soft word, draws out so much, draws out healing and oneness. In fact, one of the tactics that I've often remembered in my marriage is that when we enter a debate or an argument or whatever you want to call it, is, we try not to call it arguments in our house, I guess, for some reason. But, when we're having a heated debate, right? Yeah. In these moments, I have to recall for myself that really marriage has a goal, like I talked about in the first point. Yeah. And the goal is oneness. And right in that moment that I'm having this argument and she's having this argument with me, we're trying to figure out what this oneness looks like. And we both want to come at it different ways, right? Yeah. We have different tactics to doing it. Yeah. Have you thought about that? And so I have a moment that I can go the harsh route or I can go the soft route. But for me, it's recalling the fact that, the goal in marriage is not for me to win and you to lose, or you to win and me to lose. It's for us both to win. And if we can come at oneness as we're not trying to win against each other, but win together, it's a much different goal in the end. And I think that that's why far too many marriages live in constant heated argument, conflict, debates, whatever you want to call them, and never find reconciliation because they're never trying to end up at the same goal. One person's trying to win while they want the other to lose and feel pain. But that isn't good for either one of us. Right. And so this has really helped me in my relationship with my wife. As soon as that argument ensues, and as soon as one of these mechanisms come out and these dirty fighting techniques come out, I'm going, did we just pivot or alter our goal here? And really selfishly, we did. We altered it, and that's my fault. Does that make sense? Yeah, absolutely. I think that's such a good picture. I think for me, that's really helpful. I'm a visualization type of person. So to be able to, in the midst of an argument, not have this picture in the back of my mind about us like battling or fighting or, putting the boxing gloves on, but really recognizing that, hey, there's this thing called oneness that is sitting on the table in front of us. And actually, I want to join hands with you and attack the thing that is in front or has our oneness locked up. Like as a visual person, that actually really helps me to picture it that way. Yeah, that's good. Because the funny thing is we laugh about these dirty fighting techniques because they happen. Yeah. We use them, right? But what has happened mentally in our mind at that moment that we use them is we move from oneness to winning. Right. We do, which means oneness to winning means that we want someone else to lose. And it is so deconstructive to the marriage relationship and marriage oneness. And if we can kind of overcome that by raising ourselves out of the situation, back to the goal of marriage, which is to be one and to be shaped. And then we're trying to discuss how do we get there together.
Yeah.
And then I can see my wife not as my enemy, but as my ally.
Yeah.
And she's fighting for me and I'm fighting for her.
Yeah, that's big.
So it's all a purpose vision kind of
Yeah.
issue, I think, for many of us.
Yeah.
But that's been the cue for me. As soon as I want to walk out of the room, right? As soon as that's my primary now,
Yeah,
right?
that's
As soon as I want to exit,
Yeah.
I go, wait, why am I here? I'm here for oneness. Let's fight for that, not fight against each other. So, I mean, this gives us a lot to do today, I think, especially in relationships with our wife.
I gotta go take a phone call.
Yeah. Maybe you better go confess some things and repent, right? Which would be good for us, by the way. There's nothing wrong with that. But so, guys, I want to challenge you today. That is, one of these issues come up, right? That we would lean into them. That these dirty fighting techniques would not be fodder for you to attack your wife, right? But would be an awareness that you would have about how you do things. And I in fact, think that one great thing they could do with a podcast like this and a teaching is in a time of peace.
Big caveat.
Key caveat, right? In a time of peace, print this stuff out, these 20 fighting, dirty fighting.
Ceasefire.
Yeah, right. and actually say, I think I do these, which do you think you do? Rather than help her to self-identify and have a
You can
meeting.
get to that later on.
Yeah,
That's always a
we
fun
can
game.
do that here. It's fine because we're trying to do it in a healthy, processing kind of way, right? In a way that edifies each other. But sit down and talk about it and figure out ways that you can find oneness together.
Yeah.
Because we all fight dirty. I fight dirty. My wife fights dirty. She or me may be better at it, one or the other. And of course, we do feel like we lose in the process. But having a conversation about how we do it and even why we do it is very, very important to marriage and builds oneness. So move away from winning, move toward oneness. So guys, thanks so much for being with us today. We'll see you right back here next time on another episode of the 20-Minute Bible Study.